Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rad Rascals Podcast. We are now at episode number 27. I am one of your illustrious hosts, Ben, and back with me again is Andy. Welcome back, sir.
Oi, oi. How you doing, matey?
We do have a guest with us today who is a YouTuber, definitely a familiar voice to people on the YouTube community, and he also has his own podcast with two other amazing people. It's called HitResetRadio. He doesn't use his real name. He never shows his face. He's an enigma wrapped in a riddle. His name is Vintage Video Game Geek. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you very much, you guys. Thanks for asking me on, for working with me in your schedule, and Andy, thank you for also appearing on your own podcast. Appreciate that.
Yeah, for everyone else, I was a bit late today, so yeah, I thought I'd make an appearance, But yeah, I mean, enough about me, my man. Tell us a little bit about yourself for our listeners that may not be too aware of who you are.
Sure. Well, I have a YouTube channel. I started it in 2009.
How did Hit Reset Radio come into being? Like, was it just the three of you got together and said, let's do a podcast, or was there some kind of planning that went involved into it?
We did spend a lot of time kind of fleshing things out as much as you can. It's one thing to plan and, have a format, and then, once you start doing it, it just evolves, naturally. Yeah, we got together. We had many Skype conversations, got organized. I was telling you how we do our Google Docs. We have, a shared account that we use, and we go in there, we put all of our outlines and planning and stuff like that. It's just been great. I mean, you guys know podcasting is, it's another opportunity to kind of talk about games in a different setting, and we've really been enjoying it. We hope to be doing it for a while.
I've listened to Hit Reset Radio. I think it is a fantastic podcast, and I think you each bring something unique to the table. I mean, obviously, you have your different kind of focuses on what you like to play. I know Dinky Dana is more for the current generation stuff, as well as the retro, but he definitely has more his finger on the pulse of what's currently happening in gaming. And, you're in retro, and then MAMECADE kind of has his own thing, so it definitely makes for a nicely varied podcast. So to anyone listening who hasn't checked out Hit Reset Radio, definitely check it out. But Vintage, thank you so much for coming on the show. Greatly appreciated. And by the way, I should tell our listeners that there is a long-running rule that Vintage has, is that he never shows his face and he doesn't use his real name. So he will henceforth just be known as Sugar Tits. We had a question at the end of last week, and I'll ask this to you first, Vintage. What are your thoughts on the future of the home console market? Will the big three continue to go strong, or are we going to see another video game crash in the future?
Well, my initial thoughts on this is that I don't know, followed by I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Give us some games that you have found over the years to be maybe a little bit overrated. They're decent, but they don't necessarily meet the expectations that the acclaim has set out.
I just never understood Pokemon. And, I'm not a huge RPG person, just, to begin with, especially the whole turn-based thing. I find that it's just extremely boring. I'm very, simple in my gaming tastes. I grew up in the arcades, basically, so I kind of gravitate with my console stuff. I gravitate more towards the action adventure beat 'em ups, those kind of things.
No, that makes sense. I mean, what are some of the classic video games that you found maybe to be a little bit overrated or overhyped?
Everybody rants and raves about Super Mario 3. And I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this episode. I may be the most unpopular guest that you've ever had, because I come on here, I bash the current gen, I bash Pokemon RPG, and now I'm saying I'm not overly impressed with Super Mario 3. I mean, it's a really good game, but people just whenever somebody asks a question, well, your favorite Mario game, it's half the time people are like, well, obviously it's Super Mario 3. And I'm one of those weird guys that I think I actually prefer on the NES. I prefer the second game, which oddly enough, I know all the history of it. It wasn't originally supposed to be a Mario game, but to me it was such a night and day difference from the first game that there was something about it. It was so refreshing.
Mm-hmm. So that pretty much wraps it up for this week. Vintage, thank you so much for joining us. It's been nothing short of a pleasure.